Thank you for joining us yet again on our news desk on QTV. The headlines. Chinese nationals returning to Zambia from China are being quarantined to their homes as a precautionary measure following the outbreak of coronavirus in that country, which has so far claimed over 361 lives. State House has dismissed assertions that former presidential political advisor Kaiza Zulu has been assigned another role in the presidency. And Sebastian Misho has been officially unveiled as the new Chipolopolo coach. Here now is the news in detail. Chinese ambassador to Zambia, Li Ji, says Chinese nationals returning to Zambia are being quarantined to their homes for 2 days as a precautionary measure following the outbreak of coronavirus, which has so far claimed over 361 lives in China. Mr. Ji says 245 Chinese nationals resident in Zambia who left for the Chinese New Year festivals have since returned to Zambia, although none of them is infected with the coronavirus. He says other Chinese nationals are yet to return, with the majority of the 1,884 Chinese nationals resident in Zambia having left for the Chinese New Year. Mr. Li has also disclosed that none of the 200 Zambian students studying in the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the coronavirus initially broke out, have been infected. He has assured Zambia and other trading partners that the outbreak of the deadly coronavirus will have no effect on its international trade. Chinese ambassador to Zambia, Li Ji, says the Chinese government is confident the virus will be combated. Speaking at a media briefing held in Lusaka, Mr. Li has disclosed that Chinese scientists are working day and night to come up with a vaccine while carrying out tests with other available machines.
China has mobilized more than 6,000 doctors and nurses nationwide to support Wuhan City and Hubei Province and other cities in the most devastated provinces. In Hubei alone, 3 infectious disease hospitals are being built from scratch and will be completed this week. Many cities have taken necessary traffic control measures to prevent further spread of the novel coronavirus. A group of Chinese institutions are stepping up vaccine development for the virus, and the government is trying every effort to ensure that the daily necessities supply remains steady in major Chinese cities amid the epidemic.
The opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, has called on government to track down everyone who has returned to Zambia from China in the last 7 days. Party leader Hakainde Hichilema says there is also need for government to immediately carry out a comprehensive public health awareness campaign as a matter of urgency so that the prevention message can be reached to everyone in the country. Mr. Hichilema has told QTV News in an interview that government must also account for all Zambians currently in China. He says government should also prepare adequate quarantine facilities and services and strictly monitor all ports of entry. Mr. Hichilema says considering the incubation period for the coronavirus is 14 days, Zambians who have been to any part of China or who have had close contact with anyone who has been to China should be made to immediately report to any nearest health center for further investigation whenever they feel unwell. The World Health Organization has identified 13 top priority countries in Africa which have direct links for a high volume of travel to China, among them Zambia, Tanzania, Angola, DRC, and South Africa. Special Assistant to the President for Press and Public Relations, Isaac Chipampe, has dispelled assertions that former presidential advisor for political affairs, Kaiza Zulu, has been assigned a different role at State House. Mr. Chipampe has told Q News in an interview that Mr. Zulu, who was dismissed late last year, is no longer serving the head of state. Meanwhile, Mr. Chipampe has declined to confirm whether or not President Edgar Lungu's salary has been formally cut, following his directive to the Secretary to the Cabinet to do so. In December last year, President Lungu announced a reduction in his salary and that of his cabinet between the range of 15% and 20%. Mr. Chipampe has, however, held back from disclosing whether or not The reduction has been effected on President Lungu's pay. He states that whether the reduction has been effected or not, it is not up to his office or the president himself to confirm, but the secretary to the cabinet.
The issue of implementation, the president made a decision, and it's a directive. It's a directive from the president to the secretary to the cabinet. So the secretary to the cabinet is the right person to say whether this has been implemented or not. But it's a directive which the secretary to the cabinet should implement. It's not up to my office or the office of the president to confirm or what. That has to be done by cabinet. So you either you can call the secretary to the cabinet or you can call the permanent secretary for PSMD, which is Public Service Management Division. They are the ones to implement the directive.
So, in short, you are not aware whether or not the directive has been implemented?
Even if I was aware, but I'm not the one to confirm. I'm not the one to confirm. There are officers that are in charge of salaries for public officials.
Mines and Minerals Development Minister Richard Musukwa says a number of local and international investors have expressed interest in taking over operations of Chambeshi Metals, which has been placed on care and maintenance. Mr. Musukwa says the mining firm has since been directed to resume operations in the next 3 months. Speaking in Johannesburg, South Africa, en route to Cape Town, where he is leading a team of officials from Zambia Revenue Authority, ZCCM, IH, and the Ministry of Mines to this year's mining conference, Mr. Musukwa says government rejected the plan by the mining firm to halt operations for 2 years due to operational challenges. He says management of Chambeshi Metals has been asked to invest in a processing plant that will treat the kind of material the firm has. Mr. Musukwa says the processing facility that Chambeshi Metal is currently using is unable to adequately treat its concentrates. He has dispelled assertions that the firm has halted operations due to the 5% tax on concentrates, adding that government is ready to give a special waiver to the mining firm in order to remain operational. And Mr. Musukwa has disclosed that 3 mining firms are expected to commence mining operations this year. He says this will enable government to meet its projected copper production target of 850,000 metric tons for this year. This is contained in a statement issued by First Secretary Press and Public Relations at the Zambian High Commission in South Africa, Naomi Nyawali. Zambia National Public Health Institute infectious disease specialist Paul Zulu has encouraged the general public to take precautionary measures following the outbreak of the coronavirus, which has killed more than 300 people in China. Dr. Zulu says that people should adopt personal hygiene practices such as hand washing after sneezing, coughing, greeting people, or wear a mask if there is persistent coughing. He says there is no known treatment or cure for the novel coronavirus for now, but that only supportive treatment can be accessed. Surveillance and screening of travelers at ports of entry in the country has been heightened in view of the outbreak of the coronavirus, which appears to be spreading fast.
And part of it is also making sure certain measures like what we call cough etiquette. As you are coughing or sneezing, you make sure you cover your mouth or nose either with a cloth, or if you're coughing, you don't have any of that, you cough into your elbow or sleeve, just to make sure you reduce the risk of coughing those droplets into the air that other people can breathe in. If you are overtly coughing and sneezing, it's also advised buy a mask and just wear a mask. If you have that, it reduces your risk of transmitting the disease to others. So if you know you have traveled from China, you have symptoms, wear a mask even as you're in the home. But along with that, one of the key messages I would also forward to the population, the communities, if you feel you're at risk, you traveled to China or came into contact with someone who's recently come from China in the last 2 weeks and you have such symptoms, is to immediately report to the nearest health facility. And part of it.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has handed over a thermal scanner to Intercity Bus Terminus Clinic to be used to scan passengers disembarking from mostly international buses following the outbreak of the coronavirus. Ministry of Health spokesperson Dr. Ebo Cavallo says the ministry is not leaving any stone unturned as the terminus receives not less than 16 buses coming from different parts of the region. He says the ministry is making sure that all congregant places have a scanner, not only in Lusaka but all provinces as well. Dr. Cavallo says every passage is scanned for high temperature upon disembarking, as this is the first indicator of anything wrong in the body.
So we are not leaving any stone unturned. We are ensuring that we are in all congregate settings, areas where we believe actually this virus can come into this country, Zambia. So as you have seen, we are doing screening here as well at Intercity here in Lusaka. We're doing the same with other international, stations across the nation. In Kitwe, there is buses that come also from the other parts of the region. In Ndola, we're doing a similar thing like that. So for us, I think it's a way we are trying to ensure that we do not have any case coming through. So what they're doing here is that whenever they have, first of all, what we're doing is that we're doing a pre-landing questionnaire. So we are engaging all the bus operators to ensure that they carry out a questionnaire that will identify risky, passengers. One.
The Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, has been challenged to explain how it will facilitate political party campaigns in the prisons following its decision to allow inmates to vote in the 2021 general election. Political historian Bizek Piri is wondering whether campaigning in prisons will not compromise security in the country's correctional facilities. Professor Piri is further interested to know whether all correctional facilities will be provided with television sets and radios during the campaigns for next year's general election. He has told Q News that he is of the view that the ECZ should spell out more measures beyond just announcing that prisoners will be allowed to vote in the elections.
In our situation, I don't know how many prisons have television or radio stations. Because if there were radio stations and TV stations, I'm talking about TVs, you could expect that maybe at some point, the people that are campaigning would campaign through that kind of media. And that would be the best way of informing the prisoners that these are the people that are campaigning. These are people that are vying for positions, and therefore they can make their own decisions. In the short of that, you'll be sending people to go and vote who are not clear who is standing and what is their mandate and so on and so forth in terms of what is it that they want to do for the country. So it's not an easy thing to talk about. It requires a lot of thinking, a lot of preparation, so that at the end of the day, it doesn't compromise the electoral process.
Inspector General of Police Kakoma Kanganja has instructed all officers countrywide to be very firm but fair as they execute their duties to restore peace and order in the country. And the police chief says more police officers have been deployed to enhance security during the whole electoral process in Chilubi. Mr. Kanganja has appealed to all political actors to be tolerant, coexist and conduct their campaigns within the confines of the law, warning that all those perpetuating violence will not be spared and that those found wanting will be dealt with in accordance with the law. In a statement made available to Q News, the police chief has noted with sadness that some pockets of violence are being recorded in Chilubi as the polls draw closer. Meanwhile, the police command has noted with grave concern the growing trend by some members of the public taking the law into their own hands following a spate of gassing of people in communities and some killings that have characterized some parts of the country in the recent past. Mr. Kanganja says he has since constituted a team of officers working in collaboration with ZICTA to clamp down on people circulating false and alarming information through social media. He says so far some people have been arrested and will appear in court soon, while in another instance, investigations have advanced. Mr. Kanganja has notes with regret that incidents of instant mob justice so far experienced have unfortunately led to loss of lives and innocent people's lives, and have also given criminals a fertile ground to advance their criminal motives. The Constitution Reform and Education Coalition, CRECO, has commended the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, for taking steps towards facilitating the enforcement of the Constitutional Court judgment allowing prisoners to vote in the 2021 general election. CRECO chairperson Hyde Haguta says allowing voting prisoners and other citizens living outside Zambia is a great and a right protected by Article 46 of the Constitution of Zambia, Chapter 1 of the Laws of Zambia, which must be respected by all institutions including the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Mr. Haguta has further called on the Commission to ensure Zambian citizens in the diaspora are allowed to exercise their constitutional right of franchise to elect leaders of their choice in 2021.
This is one thing people must be able to link, that there's a link between what the ruling of the High Court was in the case of Godfrey Malembeka and what the NDF was doing. One of the issues that the NDF did was actually to give effect to this particular ruling of the court that prisoners must be allowed to vote. You'll appreciate that in Article 46 is the one that provides the basis for allowing prisoners to vote and all other citizens, like those that are in the diaspora, the Zambians that are living in the diaspora. So there must be a link when we're talking about these issues and what happened at the NDF. And this is sometimes where our colleagues lack certain knowledge in terms of exactly what happened. So when we're at the NDF, we gave effect firstly to the ruling of the court that prisoners must be allowed to vote. And secondly, equally, the Zambians that are living in the diaspora. So if we take away, we say, can we throw away Bill number 10? Essentially, we're also disrespecting the ruling of the court, because the court said, can you allow the prisoners to vote? And the NDF simply gave effect to some of these positions that were taken by the court, that have been taken by the court.
Meanwhile, Rainbow Party spokesperson Dennis Kapukulo has demanded that ECZ rescinds its decision to allow prisoners to vote. Mr. Kapukulo says the Commission cannot take or make such a huge decision without carrying out thorough stakeholder consultation.
First and foremost, they should tell us what has happened to the printing of ballot papers locally. And they should not be spokespeople for the PF government. The PF government promised us that in 2021, they are going to print the ballot papers locally. And by then, the Minister of Works and Supply, Honorable Felix Mutati, went to inspect the area. And they assured us 100% that they are going to print the ballot papers locally. What has happened? What has changed? They should tell us what has changed before they even talk about that.
We should know.
So coming to the issue of leaving out stakeholders and to find for themselves to travel to Dubai to witness the process, that cannot arise. Why? Because we are talking about integrity. Already we have lost faith in the PF government.
Exactly.
The Zambian people have lost confidence in the PF government, and then you leave the stakeholders out of this process.
No.
How are they going to believe that the elections are going to be free and fair? So they should not bring unnecessary confusion, because this might bring unnecessary confusion.
Zambia Union of Tanker Drivers and Allied Workers has instructed all its members not to pay the new 100 kwacha levy introduced by the Kapirimposhi Town Council on fuel tankers transiting through town. Union General Secretary Boyd Mawaso has challenged Kapirimposhi Council to impound the tankers that will not pay the new levy. Mr. Mawaso says the drivers already pay between 100 kwacha and 150 kwacha upon entry at the country's borders, wondering why they should be meant to pay again to the council when transiting through Kapirimposhi. He has told journalists in Osaka that drivers have refused to accept the levy being demanded by the council.
Secondly, we are still waiting for the secretariat which the government put in place to nominate trucks under Petroleum Transport Association of Zambia, PTAZ, to commence nominating trucks so that each and every transporter will work under one umbrella. We are expecting government to make this announcement last Friday, January 20th, 2020, but it wasn't announced. However, government wrote saying only 2 major transporters and the association can import fuel, namely Juba, Swift and PTZ, before the announcement is made. Meaning, the rest of transporters must do so under the association, which is PTAZ. As this will stop situation where PTAZ loses its voice over the importation of finished product, resulting in most transporters who join this industry deciding to work alone without being affiliated to PTAZ. There are some individual transporters who have joined this industry recently and are being incited by selfish transporters not to work under PTAZ. And a named supplier has been noticed trying to bring confusion in our country. From the time he came on the scene, he has brought a lot of problems, one of which is making some transporters to start fighting one another because of his selfishness interest. We are therefore appealing to the government to investigate this supplier because we don't know if he is smuggling fuel into the country and conniving with the transporters who are loading in their own capacity.
The Lusaka City Council is working on addressing the congestion of buses at Kulima Tower bus station. Council Public Relations Manager George Sichimba says the council has already approved some stations that were considered illegal to be used as bus stations to help decongest Kulima Tower bus station. Mr. Sichimba tells Q-News that the council is talking to private landowners in hopes of purchasing land to build a bigger bus station near downtown that would cater for the southern routes. He states that as a part of a long-term plan, the council has plans of adding another floor at Kulima Tower bus station. Mr. Sichimba has since appealed to bus drivers to work with the council by parking in the right places when there is available space.
We've been engaging church mother bodies just to try and talk to their members that there's no need of anyone fighting with the church. You know, the church, all of us run to church when we have problems, and so the church should not be the ones fighting with the residents. All of us want to, and no one is free to talk about issues of churches, but we know that God is a God of order, and so the church should lead by example by making sure that they are not in conflict with the neighbors, because it's not every neighbor that goes to that same church. Others go to other churches, and so let's conduct our prayers in peace, and let's make sure that we don't disturb neighbors.
Zambia, Malawi, and Zimbabwe have held the first ever sub-region meeting of bishops in Lusaka. Speaking during the conference, Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops President Bishop George Lungu, who is also Bishop of Chipata, has urged the people in the spirit of federation to pray for Malawi with regards to the awaited court ruling in the disputed elections. Bishop Lungu says people should continue to pray that peace continues to reign regardless of the outcome of the court ruling. Here is a report.
It was an exciting morning for the Catholic Church in Zambia as they hosted the first ever sub-regional meeting of bishops. Catholic bishops and congregants from Zambia, Malawi, and Zimbabwe today gathered at the Cathedral Church in Lusaka for the first ever regional meeting. Bishops from different parts of the three nations were present to be part of this great gathering.
Let us reflect for a moment on the condition of this Hallelujah. He is marginalized, excluded from the communities for his physical and mental state. He lives among his grace, not in his inner peace. Nobody is able to hold him still, screams and shouts, bruises himself with stones, gets himself up.
Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops President, Right Reverend George Lungu, who is also Bishop of Chipata, was also present.
Today, bishops of the three sister conferences of Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe are holding their first consultative meeting, registering a very important historical line in the annals of the history of the Catholic Church in our sub-region. What an exciting moment to experience for the first time the coming together of our shepherds of the Church from the three countries.
And Pope Francis was also represented.
Enhancing the pastoral collaboration of the Church in the sub-region is a relevant theme which requires your concerted efforts. For living our faith means living together as family in the Spirit of God in all circumstances.
Martha Katambi, QTV News in Lusaka.
The Foundation for Democratic Process, FODEP, says the distribution of relief food and other materials in Chilubi ahead of the parliamentary by-election is a recipe for the violation of Electoral Code of Conduct and violence. FODEP Acting Executive Director Gilbert Chisenga has implored political parties contesting the by-election, especially the ruling party, to abide by the Electoral Code of Conduct and its provision in order to have a free and fair election. Mr. Chisenga says there is need for politicians not to take advantage of the people in the area by distributing food and other things as a way of inducing them to vote for their candidate. He has told the QTV News in an interview that this is a clear indication that there is vote buying in Chilubi. Meanwhile, Mr. Chisenga has predicted that there will be low voter turnout in the Chilubi by-election because some places have not been reached due to lack of transportation.
We have received the reports that the campaigns are going on very peacefully. To us, that is a plus to the respect of our democratic tenets. And we are fully aware that there are some complaints that are coming that different political parties are distributing food and distributing materials. That to us is contrary to the provisions of the Electoral Code of Conduct, and it can be a recipe for the violation of that Electoral Code of Conduct, and maybe further on the recipe for violence in Chilubi. So what we want to appeal to political parties that there is need for them to abide by the Electoral Code of Conduct and its provisions, and also we want to appeal to the police who are administering the Public Order Act to exhibit a degree of impartiality in the administration of the Public Order Act. We have received complaints that certain political parties are not allowed to freely conduct their campaigns despite informing the police.
We now turn to sport. Serbian tactician Milutin Sidrerovic, popularly known as Micho, has been officially unveiled as the new Chipolo Polo coach. The 50-year-old former Uganda Cranes coach was unveiled at a media briefing in Lusaka by FAR's president Andrew Kamanga, and Micho has pledged to revive the Zambia national soccer team, which has failed to qualify to 2 consecutive Africa Cup of Nations. Speaking during the official unveiling of the coach at Barcelona Academy in Lusaka, FAR's president Andrew Kamanga says he expects Micho to get down to business immediately because he has a huge task ahead. Kamanga, who has praised Micho's football experience, is hopeful that the former Orlando Pirates coach will be able to make up for lost ground by the end of March.
After the long search, we are happy that we were able to settle for, please, I'll read this slowly, for Mr. Milutin Sredovic, popularly known as Micho. That's the easy one. Micho comes with a lot of experience on the continent, and we have every reason to believe that he will take us where we want to be. We have a number of competitions with back-to-back AFCON qualifiers. Next month against Botswana, we play at home on the 26th and away on the 31st. As you know, we are sitting at the bottom of that log table with 0 points. We hope that by the end of March, we'll be able to make up for lost ground. Following on from the March engagements, we have the Chan tournament in April from the 4th up to the 25th. And of course, we have the FIFA World Cup qualifiers starting in August, and the final round of the AFCON qualifiers for 2021 to be played in September. We expect that Micho will get down to work immediately because the task before us is quite onerous. It's not insurmountable, it's something that we can do with the support of all stakeholders, from the soccer fans, the administrators. Government, as I stated earlier, has given us all the support we need, and we hope that going forward we've done our part, and the rest will be for the coach and the players to do their part.
And Micho, who boasts of 19 years of coaching experience, has pledged not to let the people of Zambia and football fans down, stating that he believes in Zambian football and the players. Micho says he believes in mental strength, and that is what he will strive to work on building in the players. The Chipolo Polo top job has been vacant since the departure of Belgian trainer Sven Venneberg back in February 2019, and Green Eagles boss Agri Chiangi has been acting in the interim capacity.
I want to call it neurosurgical operation that will, knowing that Chipolo Polo is, and football as a game is deeply engraved in hearts of Zambia and Zambians, knowing what football means to you as your second religion, fully aware of responsibilities that are in front of me, fully aware about the challenges and issues that are in front of that. 2 matches have been played in African Cup of Nations qualifiers, that we have 0 points, that we have scored 1 and conceded 7. I would like from this moment, in the shortest possible honeymoon, to go back to reality of life, and back to reality of life is then we need to find all the modalities that will bring Chipolo Polo back to be real pride of Zambia and Zambians. I believe in Zambian football leaders, in the government supporting, in supporters supporting everyone to be involved in this, because we are on crossroads. It's a moment of truth and measurement of values and test of character, and when it's like that, I'm coming here in front of you to plant in front of you and tell you that knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. And with such approach, I would like to present to you a technical master plan that has 7 phases, that has a dream on the top of that pyramid of dreams. And in those 7 phases, we would go, and we are dreaming of going to the World Cup in Qatar 2020.
Well, that sporting item concludes our news, but before I take a run, here's a recap of stories in the headlines. Chinese nationals returning to Zambia from China are being quarantined to their homes as a precautionary measure following the outbreak of coronavirus. That country which has so far claimed over 361 lives. And State House has dismissed assertions that former presidential political advisor Kaiza Zulu has been assigned another role in the presidency. Serbian tactician Micho has been officially unveiled as the new Chipolo Polo coach. That's the news. Bye-bye. God bless.